My sister claims my apartment should be hers because she's the family favorite, and I'm just the spare child. Hi everyone! Today's story will blow your mind, but really quick, if you enjoy this content, hit that subscribe button. Channel's been a bit quiet lately, and your support keeps it all going. Let's jump in. Original post, posted 4 months ago. I'm a 29-year-old man, and I need to get this off my chest because I'm losing my mind. My sister Jessica, 27F, has always been the golden child in our family, but what happened last week crossed every line imaginable. Some background: I've lived in the same apartment for 3 years. I saved for the down payment, went through the mortgage process, and have been paying every bill on time. It's a modest 2-bedroom place in a decent neighborhood, nothing fancy, but it's mine. I worked double shifts at the warehouse and picked up weekend jobs to afford it. My parents know this. Jessica knows this. Everyone knows this. Jessica, on the other hand, has never held a job for more than 6 months. She's bounced between retail positions, quit 3 different office jobs because they were beneath her, and has been living rent-free in our parents' basement for the past 2 years. Our parents enable this completely. They pay for her car insurance, her phone bill, her credit card payments, everything. When I was her age, I was already supporting myself and helping them with their mortgage payments when Dad was laid off. The favoritism has been obvious my entire life. When we were kids, Jessica got the bigger bedroom, the newer clothes, the expensive birthday parties. I got hand-me-downs from cousins and was told to be grateful. When she wanted to go to art school, they paid her tuition without question. When I wanted to take a night class to get my electrician certification, they told me I needed to figure it out myself because money was tight. I paid for it with money I earned working evenings at a gas station. I thought I'd made peace with all of this. I moved out at 22, kept my distance during family gatherings, and built my own life. But last Tuesday, everything exploded. I was at my parents' house for dinner, something I rarely do, but Mom had been calling all week saying she missed me. Jessica was there too, which should have been my first red flag. About halfway through dinner, she starts talking about how she's been thinking about her future and how she needs her own space. Normal enough conversation. Then she looks directly at me and says, "I think it's time Michael moved out of my apartment." I literally choked on my food. Your apartment? She didn't even blink. Well, it should be mine. I mean, let's be honest here, Mom and Dad have always loved me more anyway. You're just the spare child. That apartment would be perfect for me, and you could find something smaller, more appropriate for someone like you. The silence that followed was deafening. I looked at my parents, waiting for them to say something, anything. My mother was staring at her plate. My father was cutting his steak like nothing had happened. "Are you serious right now?" I asked. Jessica shrugged. "I'm just saying what everyone's thinking. You got lucky with that place, but let's be real. I'm the one who deserves to live somewhere nice. I have standards. You'd be fine anywhere." I lost it. I stood up and started listing everything I'd done to earn that apartment. The 60-hour work weeks, the side jobs, the credit building, the mortgage applications, the inspections, the closing process. Jessica rolled her eyes and said, "Okay, but that doesn't mean you deserve it more than me." That's when my father finally spoke up. "Maybe you two should work something out. Jessica does need her independence." Work something out. Like my apartment was some family asset to be redistributed. I left without finishing dinner. I've been replaying that conversation for a week, and I'm realizing this isn't just about the apartment. This is about 29 years of being treated like the backup child, the one who exists to make Jessica look better by comparison. The worst part? I know they're not done. Jessica has this look she gets when she wants something, and she's not going to let this go. I'm prepared for whatever comes next, but I needed to tell someone who might understand how insane this situation is. Update 1, posted 3 months ago. Thank you to everyone who commented on my original post. Your support meant more than you know, and several of you warned me that Jessica wouldn't give up easily. You were absolutely right. Things escalated exactly as predicted. The week after the dinner incident, Jessica started showing up at my apartment building. Not to see me, to talk to my neighbors. Mrs. Chen from 3B mentioned in passing that she'd met my sister who's moving in soon. When I asked what she meant, Mrs. Chen looked confused and said Jessica had introduced herself as the new owner and mentioned I was just staying there temporarily to help with the transition. I was furious, but it gets worse. Jessica had also talked to Mr. Rodriguez, the building maintenance guy, asking about getting a spare key made because she'd be taking over the lease soon. She told him I was having financial troubles and the family was helping me out by handling the transfer. Mr. Rodriguez, bless him, told her she'd need to go through the proper channels with the landlord, but the fact that she tried this at all shows how far she's willing to go. When I confronted her about it, she acted like I was being dramatic. I was just getting familiar with the building. What's the big deal? The big deal is that you're lying to people about owning my apartment. She laughed. Relax, Michael. You're acting like this is some huge conspiracy. I'm just exploring my options. Her options. Like my home was a menu item she was considering. But the real kicker came last weekend. I was at the grocery store when I ran into my neighbor Tom from across the hall. He seemed uncomfortable when he saw me, and after some small talk, he finally said, "Hey man, I hope everything works out with your situation." What situation? Your sister explained about the family arrangement. It's cool that you're helping her get established, but I just wanted you to know that if you need any references for your next place, I'm happy to help. I made Tom repeat exactly what Jessica had told him. According to her version, our parents had bought the apartment as an investment property and put it in my name for tax purposes. Now that Jessica was ready to settle down, the family was transferring it to her, and I was being compensated with help finding something smaller and more affordable. This story was so detailed, so plausible sounding, that Tom had no reason to doubt it. She'd even mentioned specific details about my work schedule and how I'd been struggling with the bigger mortgage payments. I spent the rest of the weekend going door to door, talking to every neighbor I could find. Jessica had spoken to at least 8 different people, and her story was consistent each time. She was the real owner, I was the temporary caretaker, and the transition was happening within the next month or two. The manipulation is breathtaking. She's not just lying, she's creating a false reality where her version of events seems reasonable and inevitable. She's making it seem like the apartment changing hands is already decided, just a matter of paperwork. I've documented everything. I have the conversations with my neighbors, screenshots of the property records showing my name as the sole owner, and my mortgage statements. I've also contacted my lawyer, yes, I got a lawyer, to understand what options I have if this continues. My parents, meanwhile, are acting like nothing's happening. When I called to tell them what Jessica was doing, Mom said, "Oh, she's probably just excited about the possibility of moving out. You know how she gets when she has an idea. Excited about the possibility. Like we're discussing a hypothetical scenario instead of her actively trying to steal my home. I'm done being the understanding brother. I'm done making excuses for her behavior. And I'm definitely done pretending this is normal sibling rivalry." Update 2, posted 2 months ago. I thought Jessica had reached peak entitlement with her neighbor campaign, but she managed to surprise me again. Last month's drama feels almost quaint compared to what happened this week. It started when I came home from work to find Jessica sitting in the hallway outside my apartment. She was on the phone, speaking loudly enough for anyone passing by to hear. "I know, Mom, but he's being so stubborn about this. I just want to measure the space so I can start planning the furniture arrangement. It's not like I'm asking for anything unreasonable." She saw me approaching and didn't even lower her voice. "He's here now. Maybe you can talk some sense into him." She held out her phone. "Mom wants to talk to you." I ignored the phone and unlocked my door. Jessica tried to follow me inside, but I blocked her. "We need to discuss the timeline," she said. "I've been patient, but I have plans to make." "The timeline for what?" "For the transition. I've been looking at furniture, and I need to know when you'll be moving your stuff out so I can start bringing mine in." The casual certainty in her voice was staggering. She wasn't asking if I'd move out. She was asking when. "Jessica, this is my apartment. I'm not moving out. There is no transition." She sighed like I was being difficult about something trivial. "Michael, we've been through this. It makes sense for me to live here. You don't even use the second bedroom properly." "It's my office." "It could be a real bedroom if someone who actually appreciated the space lived here." I closed the door in her face, but she kept talking through it. "I'm not giving up on this, Michael. This is too important." The next day, I got a call from my landlord. Someone had contacted the building management office asking about lease transfer procedures and claiming to be a family member handling a domestic transition. They'd provided enough personal information about me to seem legitimate. My full name, my apartment number, even my work schedule. My landlord was confused because, as far as he knew, I wasn't planning to move. I explained the situation, and he agreed to flag my account so that no changes could be made without my direct, in-person authorization. But Jessica wasn't done. 2 days later, she showed up at my work. I work at an industrial facility, and visitors have to check in at the front desk. The receptionist called to let me know my sister was there to see me about family business. When I came out to the lobby, Jessica was sitting there with a folder full of papers. "I brought some information about rental prices in the area," she announced. I found some really nice places that would be perfect for you. Much more manageable than what you're paying now. She'd researched apartments in less expensive neighborhoods, printed out listings, and even calculated how much money I'd save on rent. She presented this like she was doing me a favor. Jessica, I don't want to move. I like my apartment. I chose it, I pay for it, and I'm staying there. But look at these savings, she insisted, spreading the papers across the lobby table. You could have so much more disposable income. And think about how much happier I'd be in a space that actually suits my personality. Other people in the lobby were starting to stare. I gathered up her papers and handed them back to her. You need to stop this. I'm not moving, and you're not getting my apartment. This conversation is over. Fine, she said, standing up. But this isn't over. I'll find another way. That phrase, I'll find another way, has been haunting me for 2 weeks. With Jessica, threats aren't empty. She's already proven she's willing to lie to my neighbors and contact my building management. I'm genuinely worried about what she might try next. I've changed my locks, again, updated my emergency contacts to remove my parents, and I'm keeping detailed records of every interaction. My lawyer says I might need a restraining order if this escalates further. The saddest part is that my parents are still acting like this is normal. When I told them about Jessica showing up at my work, Dad said, she's just trying to help you see the bigger picture. The bigger picture, apparently, is that I should give up my home so Jessica can have what she wants. Update 3, posted 1 month ago. I've been dreading writing this update because what happened last week was so far beyond anything I could have imagined. Jessica didn't just escalate, she brought in reinforcements. Last Saturday, I was home doing laundry when I heard voices in the hallway. Multiple voices. I looked through the peephole and saw Jessica, both my parents, and my Uncle David standing outside my door. They were having what sounded like a strategy meeting. Just remember, I heard my mother say, we're here to help him understand. This is about what's best for the family. They knocked, and when I answered, Jessica pushed past me into the apartment before I could stop her. We need to have a serious conversation, Dad announced, following her inside. An intervention, Mom added, like this was a medical emergency. I was too shocked to react immediately. They arranged themselves in my living room like they owned the place. Jessica sat in my favorite chair, Mom and Dad took the couch, and Uncle David stationed himself by the door like a guard. Michael, Dad began, we've been talking as a family, and we've come to some conclusions about this situation. What situation? The situation where Jessica wants to steal my apartment. See, Jessica said to the others. This is exactly the attitude I was telling you about. He's being completely unreasonable. Mom leaned forward with her most sympathetic expression. Honey, we know you worked hard for this place, but sometimes we have to think about the bigger picture. What bigger picture? The family picture, Uncle David said. Jessica needs stability right now. She's trying to build her life, and she needs support. And I don't. You're already established, Dad said. You've proven you can take care of yourself. Jessica hasn't had those same opportunities. I stared at him. She hasn't had opportunities? She's had more opportunities than I ever did. You paid for her education, her car, her living expenses. That's different, Mom interrupted. That was investment in her future. And this apartment is investment in my future. Jessica sighed dramatically. Michael, you're being selfish. I've found the perfect place for you. It's smaller, yes, but it's more appropriate for a single person. And think about how much money you'll save. She pulled out her phone and started showing me pictures of a studio apartment in a neighborhood I'd never heard of. It's only $800 a month, and it's available immediately. I've already talked to the landlord. You what? I put down a deposit to hold it for you. Consider it a gift. The room was spinning. You put down a deposit on an apartment for me without asking? I was being proactive, she said. I knew you'd overthink it. That's when I lost it. I stood up and started shouting about boundaries, about ownership, about how insane this entire situation was. But they just sat there, looking at me like I was having a tantrum. Are you finished? Dad asked when I finally ran out of steam. Michael, Mom said gently, we've talked about this, and we think it would be best for everyone if you moved to the new place. Jessica would be so much happier here, and you'd have less financial stress. I don't want less financial stress. I want to keep the apartment I worked for. But think about Jessica's happiness, Mom continued. She's been struggling, and this would give her the fresh start she needs. Uncle David nodded. Sometimes we have to make sacrifices for family. What sacrifice is Jessica making? I demanded. They exchanged looks. She's taking on a big responsibility by moving out of Mom and Dad's house, Uncle David said. Taking on responsibility? She'd be living in my apartment. Her apartment, Jessica corrected. Once the paperwork is sorted out. There is no paperwork. It's my apartment. For now, Dad said. But we think this arrangement makes more sense long-term. That's when I realized what was happening. This wasn't an intervention. It was an ambush. They decided among themselves that Jessica should have my apartment, and they were here to convince me to go along with it. I want all of you to leave, I said. Right now. Michael, Mom started, but I cut her off. Leave. This is my home, and I want you out. They didn't move. Jessica actually laughed. You're being ridiculous. I'm calling the police. That got their attention. Dad stood up. There's no need for that. Then leave. They finally left, but not before Jessica said, This isn't over. We'll figure out another way to make you see reason. I've been a wreck since then. I can't believe my own family ambushed me in my own home to try to convince me to give up my apartment. The entitlement is breathtaking, but what's worse is that they genuinely seem to believe they're being reasonable. I've gone no contact with all of them. I changed my phone number, blocked them on social media, and I'm seriously considering moving to a different city just to get away from this insanity. Final update, posted 2 weeks ago. The last month has been a whirlwind, but I finally have some closure on this situation. Thank you to everyone who offered support and advice throughout this nightmare. Your messages kept me sane when I thought I was losing my mind. After the family intervention, I followed through on going no contact with my parents and Jessica. I changed my phone number, blocked them everywhere, and informed my building management that under no circumstances should any of them be given information about my lease or allowed into the building. For about 2 weeks, things were quiet. I started to hope they'd finally gotten the message. Then last Monday, I got a call at work from an unknown number. Michael. This is attorney Patricia Chen from Chen & Associates. I'm calling regarding a property dispute involving your apartment. My blood ran cold. What kind of property dispute? I've been retained by your family to handle the transfer of property located at my address. There seems to be some confusion about the ownership, and my clients would like to resolve this amicably. I told her I'd call her back and immediately contacted my own lawyer. When I explained the situation, he laughed. Actually laughed. Let me get this straight, he said. Your sister hired a lawyer to try to take your apartment because she thinks she deserves it more? That's exactly what's happening. This is going to be the easiest case I've ever handled. He was right. When we called Attorney Chen back, she seemed confused about the details of the case. It turns out Jessica had told her a completely different story, that the apartment was purchased by our parents as a family investment, that there had been an informal agreement about Jessica eventually taking over the lease, and that I was now refusing to honor that agreement. When my lawyer provided the actual documentation, my mortgage records, the deed showing my sole ownership, my credit history, and my payment records, Attorney Chen was quiet for a long time. I'm going to need to speak with my clients, she finally said. The next day, she called back. Mr. Michael, I'm withdrawing from this case. It appears there may have been some misunderstandings about the nature of the property ownership. Translation: Jessica had lied to her lawyer about the basic facts of the situation. But the story gets better. 2 days after the lawyer's situation collapsed, I got a text from an unknown number. It was from my cousin Sarah, who I hadn't talked to in months. Hey, I heard about what Jessica tried to do. I thought you should know she's been telling people you stole her apartment. Like, actually stole it. She's been asking family members to help her get it back. I called Sarah, and she filled me in on what had been happening behind the scenes. Apparently, Jessica had been contacting extended family members with increasingly dramatic versions of the story. First, it was that I was refusing to share the apartment. Then it became that I had tricked her out of an apartment that was supposed to be hers. The latest version was that I had somehow stolen the apartment through fraud. But here's the thing about lying to family members. Eventually, people start comparing notes. And when they do, inconsistencies become obvious. Sarah told me that Jessica had approached our cousin Mark for money to hire a better lawyer. She'd told him that I had forged documents to steal her inheritance. But Mark remembered that I'd bought the apartment with my own money because he'd actually helped me move some furniture when I first got the place. Word spread quickly through the family. Within a week, several relatives had reached out to me directly to ask what was really going on. When I told them the truth, with documentation, the response was swift and unanimous. Jessica had burned every bridge. The family members who might have been sympathetic to her, wanting her own place, were disgusted by her lies and manipulation. The relatives who had always favored her were embarrassed by her behavior. Even my parents found themselves isolated because people assumed they were in on the deception. The final blow came when my grandmother, Jessica's biggest supporter, called me directly. "Michael, I owe you an apology. I had no idea how bad things had gotten with Jessica." Your mother tried to explain her side, but the more I heard, the more I realized how wrong this whole situation is. Grandma had always been Jessica's champion, so hearing her say this was surreal. "I've talked to your parents," she continued. "I told them they need to get Jessica some help because this behavior isn't normal. And I told them they owe you a massive apology." That conversation happened 3 days ago. Yesterday, my mother called my work, since I'd changed my personal number, and left a message asking me to call her back. I haven't decided if I will. Meanwhile, Jessica has apparently moved back in with our parents full-time and has been telling people she's taking a break from apartment hunting. According to Sarah, she's been unusually quiet on social media and hasn't been seen at any family gatherings. As for me, I'm doing great. I love my apartment more than ever. I've been sleeping better, my work performance has improved, and I've started dating someone new who thinks the whole situation is bizarre but admires how I handled it. The biggest lesson I've learned is that sometimes the best way to deal with toxic family members is to let them destroy their own credibility. I didn't have to convince anyone that Jessica was wrong. I just had to tell the truth and let her lies speak for themselves. To anyone dealing with similar family drama, document everything, don't engage with the manipulation, and remember that you don't owe anyone your peace of mind or your hard-earned assets, even if they're family. I'm done with updates on this situation. I'm moving forward with my life, and Jessica is no longer a part of it. Edit. A lot of people have asked about my parents. I'm still deciding whether to have any contact with them. They enabled Jessica's behavior for years, and they participated in the intervention at my apartment. But they're also my parents, and I know they're struggling with the fallout from Jessica's lies. I might be open to a conversation someday, but only if they're willing to acknowledge their role in this mess and commit to real changes. As for Jessica, that bridge is permanently burned. Some relationships can't be repaired, and I'm finally at peace with that.